So good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us here at GCCM here live in London. And we're going to talk about the new business models to meet the cable's future digital demand and the role of the data centers in the region to meet the future demand. So a mouthful again. So welcome everybody, and I would like to welcome as well my fellow panelists. I'll give them a quick minute to introduce themselves. So Huda, welcome and good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
Maybe you can introduce yourself quickly.
Yes, my name is Huda Al-Ghabshi. I'm Senior Manager Capacity and Submarine in Omantel, where I'm responsible of sales of capacities, infrastructure, and investment on submarine cables as well.
Fantastic, thank you, and good having you. So we go over to Lucas. Welcome, Lucas.
Welcome. Hi, everyone. It's nice to be here. Also, I'm the product marketing manager of OTEGLOBE, and I was also responsible for the commercial part of subsea cables in our company. Used to be the chairman of management committee of A1 for many years in the past, and looking forward to this panel.
Thank you so much, and welcome, and thank you for sponsoring this panel, Lucas. So, Mark, over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, so Mark Acton, firstly, apologise that I can't be there in person. I tested positive for COVID last night, so probably best not to share it with everybody. But yeah, my name is Mark Acton. I'm the Technical Consulting Director at Future Tech. I've been working in the data centre industry for 25 years or so, managing very large sites around the world, actually, and more recently acting as a consultant, a technical consultant. I'm also heavily involved in data centre standards and the development of global standards for use in data centers. So hopefully I know a little bit about data centers, but nothing about anything else. So
thank you, and good having you, and welcome to you, Mark. And we all from here wish you the best recovery possible.
Thank you very, very much. It's very mild. No big deal.
So last but not least, Marco, happy to have you here live next to me and here in at the GCCM in London. So
yeah. Hello, I'm Marco. I'm really happy that finally we can have physical events as well. I'm from DKIX. DKIX is the worldwide leading operator of internet exchanges. I'm responsible for the exchanges in Middle East and South Asia, so our India operations and the Euro exchange in Dubai. And I'm looking forward to the show.
Okay, fantastic. Good having you as well. So, so ladies and gentlemen, now we're going to listen to Lucas. Lucas, you have a presentation for us to share with us here with the audience and out there and on the World Wide Web. So please take it away.
Can you see it? Is it okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So for those of you that do not know our company, we are OTEGLOBE, and we are based in Greece with the international wholesale arm of Cosmote and OTE group of companies, which are the Greek incumbent. We are dealing with both voice and data. We are one of the well-known regional wholesale carriers in Southeast Europe. And our two pillars, let's say, of operations, data and voice, contribute to our annual revenues of around 350 million per year. We have a lot of capacities on our international network, more than 7 terabps, as well as we are terminating a lot of voice minutes. But that's more or less about OTEGLOBE. I don't want to spend more time. I'm pretty sure that my colleagues there will give you a better overview and a better presentation of our company if needed. Let us take a look now at what is the situation in international telecoms today. We are all talking about, we're all running on the fourth industrial revolution. What does that mean for us? It means the digitization of all the aspects of our lives, and especially the enterprise sector, moving to the cloud. And for us telcos, the cloud means that we have to rely on robust and diverse networks. We have to be always on. It's no longer about just surfing the net. It's about doing almost everything over the net, which means that outages are not acceptable. Apart from that, the telecom, let's say, landscape has changed in the recent years. It's not longer a few large telecom carriers with data centers. Other parties have joined the game, and I'm talking about content providers and over-the-top players, as well as hyperscalers, who are responsible for the growth in the region globally. Globally, I think the traffic now is around 800 terabps, the international internet traffic, not the domestic. The domestic one is in the form of a few petabps today, and it's growing. It's growing around 30% per year. But this growth is more attributed, let's say, to content providers and over-the-top players who are building also their own networks, connecting all the data centers globally. And that means that we see more cloud regions, more data centers emerging year by year. This is the picture from 2020. If you take a look at 2021 or 2022, it's you will see more cloud regions emerging, which is very important. And apart from that, all these new build-outs and all this new infrastructure has to be connected somehow. And we see that there is another, let's say, new investments on subsea cables for the next 3 years, from 2021 to 2023. More in Asia and Africa, but also in all regions. We see that there is a lot of activity there. And apart from that, now the subsea cables, their business models are changing. We are no longer talking about closed systems that are run from consortia of many telecom operators. We are talking about cables that are extending from the landing station to carrier neutral POPs or large data centers. And that's very important because it's changing the game completely. And all this infrastructure, these new cables, means that there are also new hubs emerging in the regions. And I'm talking about my home country, which is Greece, and where our company is located. We see new cables being built, being connected to Greece, not necessarily to our network, but to other carriers in the region also. A lot of new projects are built, which is normal because it reflects the increase in capacity and the need for new capacities, as well as the needs for diversity and resilience in the region. And that's some aspects that we're going to discuss in the panel, I believe, moving forward. So the question is, with all this new, let's say, infrastructure being built, with all these new investments, what a company like OTEGLOBE can do? What we are doing as OTEGLOBE, and I believe that other wholesale carriers are doing the same, is reinforcing our networks, not just by building new network infrastructure, but by investing in innovation and automation, by putting larger interfaces, 400G interfaces, by participating in subsea consortia, the latest of which was the well-known now A1. And we have more plans for new infrastructure in the future. And by staying financially strong, because now in the saturated market, the telecom market is now a saturated market with a lot of competition due to the emergence of new carriers, due to mergers and acquisitions that have somehow trimmed the customer base, which means that in order to to survive in such a competitive environment, you need to invest in innovation, and to do that, you need to be financially strong. More or less, that's my few minutes of presentation. I think I didn't take much of your time. Thank you, and if there are any questions, I'm happy to share my views and answer any questions that come up from the audience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lucas. It has been very inspiring what you shared with us. And yes, I mean the investments are going on and on and on. I mean, let's quickly jump to Oman, to Huda. I know you spent a huge amount of money, especially also on the new data center and whatever. Maybe we come to that later. But you see, of course, a huge increase of the consumption. And on the other hand, let's face it. I mean, today we are in a situation where energy and the cost of energy is going through the roof. And we can discuss, of course, if the governments should take a little bit lax taxes on this one. That is a question that can also be addressed. But so challenges are absolutely there. So and Mark, if I may kick off with you, I mean, what can you give us a quick overview? I mean, how are we today addressing the market and the future consumption trends of the bandwidth hungry consumers and customers we have? What are we talking about? Can you give us a glimpse of it, please?
Yeah, I can't give you numbers because I think that one of the challenges we have in our industry generally, and when I say our industry, I mean the digital infrastructure industry, which includes cables, it includes data centers and all the components that fit into that. There are no accurate global figures that give us an idea of how much we're consuming. And so I think we get all sorts of pressure from the media and government saying, you know, we're consuming the same amount of power as Sweden or some such figure as that. And I think because of that, we need to be very, very careful because I think we are potentially going to be suffering regulation, legislation, and potentially taxation in relation to energy usage and obviously environmental footprint. So I think as an industry, we need to be extremely careful to not have our industry restricted in terms of growth. We're already seeing places like Ireland, Amsterdam, Singapore saying no more data centers. Well, what does that really mean? You know, we have this sort of this irony that we want more digital services. Governments want more digital services in region, and yet we're potentially being restricted in growth. So I think we need to do a much better job of promoting the value that we bring, both to the social element, but also to the business element. And if legislation and regulation and taxation do come, then it's at least appropriate rather than being a typical knee-jerk reaction that we get from most governments, which will produce all sorts of unintended consequences. So I think we need to be, as an industry, very mindful that we are consuming energy, we are under the microscope, there is a bit of a target on our backs. And so we need to basically have very, very grown-up conversations with governments and regulators to say, we are actually promoting benefit. The only way that we're going to basically reduce climate change, move forward in a much more sustainable manner, is by the use of digital technologies, which reside in data centers and obviously use communication links, and prevent our hands being tied in what we can do. And that's everywhere. That's globally. That's not just in any particular region. So I think we need to be very careful and cautious.
No, absolutely. But on the other hand, if I may say so, Mark, and to all of you, I mean, the government itself is working with smartphones. They want this service on demand. They want this connectivity faster than ever. They put everything in the cloud. And by the end of the day, guys,
it's true. It's a monumental irony. On the one hand, they are criticizing us for energy consumption. On the other hand, they are saying that they want more digital services for their citizens and putting themselves online. So, yeah, I mean, it's not very joined up thinking, but what government is particularly good at joined up thinking? So, which is why we need to educate. I think it's incredibly important that we educate.
No, absolutely, and maybe Huda, you want to join in, because especially from you and especially from, let's say, the Middle East and Africa region, where of course you and Omantel are the absolute experts, of course. What is the situation over there? I mean, we know that you opened up your new data center. You did enormous investments as well on the cable side. What is the situation over there, and how are you handling, let's say, the challenges you're facing?
Okay, I'll take it from a bit optimistic perspective that by having COVID during the past few years, like, it's really increased the requirement or the demand on capacity in a very massive way. What we can say that you can tell the normal consumer is really hunger to get more data, to get internet, where most of the people went online or working online or having digitalization for government sector or private sector as well. So all of these you will need capacity, you will need internet. From capacity and submarine side, we were really doing good last couple of years, which is touch the wood, as we say. So the only challenge that we managed to adapt, that increasing the capacity means, which it was led by OTTs and hyperscalers. Now we can see all the hyperscalers, they already started to have their own cables, their own investment. So the normal customers who are buying a wholesale capacity from us, now they have their own submarine cables as well. So we in Amantel, we adapted to this change rapidly. We started to be a partner with big hyperscalers, like what we have right now. We invested with Google in Blue Raman, and hopefully it will be RFS by 2024. And we can tell that Facebook, Microsoft, everybody, they already started to have their own capacity. And this will continue leading during the next few years. So we need to check, we need to adapt on enhancing the technologies of the cables, bringing higher capacities. You don't hear anymore 10 gig or even 100 gig. Everybody is talking about fiber pairs and above, and a huge number of fiber pairs. So as telecom companies, we need to adapt fast and quickly to the situation. And this will bring more sales to us, which is good.
Perfect, thank you. Let's hear from Marco here with me what the situation be, because if somebody knows the numbers, then it's this guy, especially on the IX side. So Marco,
yeah,
give us an overview. What's happening?
Basically, what we could see during the pandemic and also after it, or let's say we are at the end, I hope, that the capacities is going through the roof. So the capacity increases we had, the consumption increase which we had on the exchanges, it was record breaking all the time. And I think what we should not forget, and as an industry, which we should really play, is the card that we basically saved or helped the world in the pandemic to function. Because without the communication, without the technology and the interconnection which we deliver, it would have been much worse. So yeah, the world did function because we were here and the internet was stable and we could deliver. Talking about the capacities, yeah, it's going through the roof. I mean, Huda can tell you a lot. I think about the A1 and the CMV5, and all these cables are already booked out, sold out between Asia and Europe. So what we see also because of that is maybe the trend of localization. So we heard that, okay, some cities, bigger cities, don't want to see new data centers, but we should not forget we see a huge trend of data centers being developed in regions where you haven't thought before. I mean, I just think about India, what is going on there. It's crazy. The developments, the new data centers which are coming up, the size they build in different cities, it's tremendous. And I think we will see much more of that. So we will see a localization as well. And obviously the big OTTs play a big role in that picture as well, yeah.
No, but I also think that is driven, of course, by governments. To also, if you look on the content side, is to keep the content in the country, because it's just forbidden. It's just by law, it's forbidden to have, let's say, access from the outside and to bring it to the outside. So all those drivers are actually moving. And what people forget, and Mark, I fully follow you by saying we need to educate the people. It's not only on, let's say, on the energy, the climate side, whatever, but also the enormous demand. As Marco just said, all the pipes around the world are sold out. They are just sold out. And we still are halfway the capacity we're going to need in 10 years. if it's not even more. So something has to be done. And on the other hand, it's a beautiful business model, right, guys? I mean, we could, I mean, tell me, I mean, other people within the telco, they have to fight far more than we guys here on the connectivity, on the IX side, and on the data center side. So I think it's a good thing. Now, moving on. So having, let's say, a snapshot of the landscape. Lucas, maybe you can say something about, because do we see new business models arising? Because again, as we just mentioned, in the landscape, the ecosystem, it moves so fast, and we have to adapt to whatever regulations, new laws, and the demand, of course, from the consumption that we see. So, Lucas, do we see new business models arriving? Are there more partnerships coming up? What's out there?
Well, yes, we see new business models. We see the telco, let's say, landscape a few years back, not so many years back, was dominated by the telco players themselves, plus a few data centers. Now the whole situation has evolved. We have new players, which are over-the-top players, and content providers that have a different philosophy and a different culture. I mean, there are smaller, more flexible companies that invest in innovation and in their human capital, their human resources. Let us keep in mind that carriers are used to invest heavily because infrastructure is expensive, and are ready to be more conservative, let's say, in this respect, in their investments. Meaning that they don't invest so much, they weren't investing so much in human capital. Now that is changing. That means that we, as carriers, we need to invest more on our people. We need to take more risks, get ready to take more risks, meaning that we need to do smart investments. And smart investments, or investing in innovation in a saturated and highly competitive market, is more risky than it used to be before, when the market was protected. And at the same time, of course, we need to form more partnerships, not only among ourselves, but also with the new players that have entered the market. Of course, there are also other aspects, for example, our operational model, the way we are managing our networks. It's no longer a simple management. We need to use artificial intelligence more in our networks in order to harness all this information that comes in our networks, in order to be able to see where not only where we need more capacity, but where we need more diversity, more resilience, in order to avoid outages and provide a better service to our clients. That is more or less the way we see it happening now.
Okay, thank you, Lucas. I mean, Huda, if I may come to you, and maybe you can address it. I mean, I know you can address it because Omantel, of course, as you already mentioned, had some strategic partnerships, but maybe you can say a little bit more about that.
Okay, as I said earlier, that we need to be very agile in adapting the change. We came up with a new business model where we need to, if you want to lead the market, then you need to be very creative in your business model. So in Omantel, we were really focusing on certain areas. First of all, in creating a diversity routes, partnership with big hyperscalers and OTTs, as well as we were a bit selective in choosing the investment that we are going in, like a selective consortium members. If you remember that previously the cable had more than 26 consortium members. So taking a decision will be very hard. Gathering all around in one table will be another obstacle to go through. So these days we are like focusing on smaller consortium members to be effective and to have fast decision making, as well as having all these without having an open access in Oman it will be very difficult to bring all the cables. And one of our objectives is to be the global communication hub in Oman and as Omantel. So we started with the first cooperation with Equinix as Muscat MC1, and it's really a very successful project. Which we may talk later on about it. And Marco, we have to sit together, so you have to come to Oman as well. And since this project was really successful, now we are starting with another successful project in another place in Oman, and hopefully we can discuss later on about it.
Absolutely. Mark, your take quickly on do you see business models changing, shifting, new ones coming, partnerships? What's your take on that one?
Yeah, very, very much so. I mean, we've already mentioned data sovereignty, the importance of data by nation. And we've already also talked about the idea that we're moving away from the traditional markets, the FLAPs, the Frankfurt, London, Amsterdam, Paris markets, into tier 2 and tier 3 markets. And a lot of that, I think there's two things. One is the fantastic need that's been driven by COVID and the success of actually supporting our industry, supporting business and social life through the reliability of the networks we've had in place. But I think also there's a recognition of the importance, and that has led to increased funding. Investors are seeing data centers in particular as an asset class. They're no longer putting money into offices or housing. It's very much going into data centers. They're looking for new venues. And again, that's driving demand on top of the data sovereignty element. So they're looking at the tier 2 and 3 markets. And all of this is going to be driven by the availability of bandwidth, so cable. So if you look at where new data centers are being built around the world, it's where cables are landing. So, the property in those areas is becoming premium. Investors are fighting over it. There's a lot of M&A going on in those regions to acquire, historically small independent operators. You've only got to look at what's happening in the press in terms of seeing what's happening. So the business model is absolutely changing. And a lot of this is being driven by hyperscale demand. The hyperscalers aren't necessarily building their own data centers in some of these tier 2 and 3 regions. They're going to co-location. So the big players like Dish Realty and Equinix, et cetera, are building for hyperscale demand in tier 2 and 3 regions. And that will be based on the back of the bandwidth that's available in those regions. So, yeah, I mean, you can call it an edge play. People talk about edge. What is edge? It could be anything, but in terms of Microsoft, Google and others, it's about 10 megawatts. It's not a lamppost in the street anymore. It's 10 megawatts of data center. Yeah, exactly. So it is a very much a changing model. And I think the great thing, as you said, for all of us, is there's a great deal of investment money in this new asset class that is available to all of us. So, it's a good world we live in right now, despite COVID.
Absolutely. No, thank you. I mean, Huda, you were just mentioning to Marco he should come to Oman quickly. So I wanted to ask you actually, Marco. IX and peering plays an important role in the whole data chain. I mean, we discussed it quickly, but how can players help to generate more value-add services to drive the growth? What do you see?
Yeah, what we see is that we are the biggest exchange in the world. Okay, the internet exchange. So we're coming from the BGP side, from IP traffic. Basically, it started with network technicians connecting their network.
Old school.
This is how we started, very old school. This is still, of course, the core of what we are doing. But what we see is a real growing demand for more interconnection services. So we started with the cloud exchange. So we are offering all these cloud connects. We started with the map service for Microsoft, for instance. But what we also see is we see now the demand of, I would call it virtualization of networks. So we have so much infrastructure all over the world in the different data centers. The exchanges are interconnected with each other. Now, big enterprises, German car manufacturers, for instance, are coming and saying, okay, we have the need of like a virtual exchange which is spanning over continents, where we want to include operators who are developing or who are providing the SIM cards for them, AWS, Spotify, Netflix, whatever for the content, but also the cloud, Microsoft Azure, and so on. And they want to have this not in one location. They want to have this span all over the planet and being very vital with this. So agile, I would say. So, it's a virtualization of networks. So what we see, and this will be a future trend, and because we heard so much about the investments of the hyperscalers who are dominating now, I would say the sea cable investments. And I remember at ITW when the colleague from Microsoft came and said, this was the last time I was discussing with the carrier about pricing. Now I'm becoming a partner. And we predict in 5 years, we will see even more players which are not hyperscalers, but big enterprises on telecommunication conferences doing the same thing.
Oh, absolutely. By the way, and that's why in Berlin, ladies and gentlemen, we have a big enterprise summit as well. So beware, we're on the market. So thank you, Marco. Mark, what do you foresee? I mean, we tipped already a little bit on it, what we're going to see, what is going to happen. But what's your view on, let's say, a bit on the future? Can you scope with me a little bit something and with together with the audience?
Yeah, I think the big thing that's going to change is sort of the dominance of North America and possibly Northwestern Europe is going to be eroded. I think, we're going to see more and more players in regions that have traditionally not had robust digital infrastructure. If you look at the investment that's going on now, Africa is an area that, my company is doing a lot of work in right now. We've got a population of 1 billion people in Africa who are underserved by digital infrastructure. And on the back of that, if you look at the cable projects that are going in around the west and east coast of Africa, coming into Europe and beyond, it doesn't take a great deal of imagination to work out where those new data centers are going to be built, where those new digital communities and hubs are going to be built, and the investment that's going to go into those areas. So I think that's the big trend for me. It's the leveling up of the digital infrastructure around the planet and the services provided by that digital infrastructure to populations that probably haven't had it to the same level in the past. That's the direction I see.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Lucas, what do you foresee for the future? What do we
foresee for the future? Okay, it's very difficult to foresee the future right now. There's a lot of changes in a lot of different directions. But I do see new technologies coming, 5G, for example, that will affect definitely the demand, fiber to the home, again in the access part, Internet of Things, cloud computing. The enterprise sector is moving to the cloud. Not only that, we are also in the process of virtualizing part of our infrastructure because it makes us more competitive. It's easy to see. So what we see now is that there is a need to continue investing in building new infrastructure, but not only in the, let's say, in order to provide more capacities or a different set, let's say, of services instead of just capacities, optical spectrum or dark fibers, which is what other parties want. But also in the sense of doing it in a smarter way, providing smarter networks, more automated, and improve our customer experience in this regard. Also, we do see, for the near future at least, a move from the public internet to private infrastructure. And we see it because a lot of content providers or OTTs that rely on the public internet to provide their services, now they are building their own private networks by partnering also with us, with some of the telecom carriers. So for the near future, that's the whole picture. For more than that, I'm afraid I cannot give a safe prediction today.
No, but it's already more than enough, and at least you give, let's say, the audience here and all around the world watching this webinar where it's going. So that's already good. Huda, your forecast, and maybe you can quickly tip on MC1 as well, quickly.
Yeah. Just to reply on Lucas, I think the positive prediction about future that telecom will keep booming for more than another 10 to 20 years as per the digital era. So we will have a good business, hopefully by next in near future, and also in after 20 years. So in Omantel, as I told you that we were really looking forward, or we already have our future plan for these kind of trends. We keep Omantel as a hub of the communication, where we are landing a lot of submarine cables, and we are investing with hyperscalers as well. And we have a very good relation with almost all the hyperscalers in the world: Facebook, Microsoft, Google, and Amazon as well. This allows Omantel to be the hub of the communication, as well as the one-stop content of within the region. First of all, as Marco said, it's very important to localize the content. Now, although that Oman, we have very small, like people who are generating content or utilizing the content in Oman, but we within like less than 5 years, we made sure that most of the content are served from Oman. Now we have almost 85%, which is a localized content. Then we started with MC1, which is our joint venture with Microsoft, where we had the first pop of Facebook here in the region, and this was a real success for Omantel. We are serving most of all the neighbor countries with Facebook, direct peering with Facebook as well as Google. And since this corporation was really very successful, now we are working into another neutral data center in a place called Salalah, where the location of Salalah is really will help Oman and Omantel to connect to Africa as well as other continents. And I don't know if you hear about Omantel Australia cable, where everybody was really saying that this is an impossible project to be done, or normally all Australia cables are going to Singapore and then coming to our region or to Europe. So gladly, we were partnering with Subco, and we have the first cable coming directly from Australia. So I believe Omantel is really in the right track, and hopefully we will be able to serve the whole region within Omantel, with Omantel.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will. Marco, some last words. What can you scope a bit the future? What will, I mean, you tipped on it already, what's going to happen, but what's your takeaway?
Well, for the near future, I can say I will come to Oman after the lovely invitation. No, I need to go there, especially as I hear you opening in Salalah, a place I definitely want to visit on all aspects. It's great to be a great place, I heard. Other than that, well, we will see a lot of developments, local developments, or let's say more localized developments, new exchanges in countries where you don't see exchanges now, more neutral data centers. We see so much developments also from the regulator side to enable it. So especially in the Middle East, it's very impressive what is going on there. So yeah, the prediction is a more interconnected world, more bandwidth demand. So I hope the sea cable can grow in that space or pace as we need it, or the speed. And yeah, edge locations are growing, and that's the trend. You know, that's what we will see for the next couple of years. And enterprise is getting more into the picture.
Okay. Lucas, if I may close this session with you, I mean, from OTEGLOBE, always on, what's your takeaway what can you share with the people?
Well, what can I share with the people is that the industry looks healthy and strong, at least for the near future. This is what I can say. And I'm optimistic that with all these technologies and with all this traffic coming through our network, with localization or not, I believe that we are in the good position to serve not only our customers, but also our societies and our communities that rely on us, that rely on our network for the near future. And this is what we are doing as OTEGLOBE, building a robust, diverse and resilient infrastructure that is serving our region in the best possible way.
Okay, cool, fantastic. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this this session, but promise you, we'll talk more about this topic in the future. Lucas, and I want to thank you so much for sharing your presentation and the knowledge and the network of OTEGLOBE with all of us.
Thank you also for hearing us, and thank you for your time, and the audience, of course, for participating and attending this event, and all the other speakers for sharing their knowledge and their information. It was very useful.
Okay, and with those words, I also would like to thank the audience here and out there on the World Wide Web. Huda, had it been an honor as always. Thank you so much, and my beloved greetings to the beautiful city of Muscat in Oman. Mark, please recover super fast, man. We need you. We need you on the floor here. We need you on the floor here.
Thank you.
Okay, and Michael, thank you as always. Thank you for being with us here, and everybody, it's ciao for now. Stay tuned, and Care Community is here for you. Okay, bye bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.